Hi, it's Patrick Hutzel from IntensiveCareHotline.com, where we instantly improve the lives for families of critically ill patients in intensive care, so that you can have peace of mind, real power, real control, and so that you can influence decision making fast, even if you're not a doctor or a nurse in intensive care. This is another episode of Your Questions Answered. And in last week's episode I answered another question from one of our readers, and the question last week was part 4 of My partner is in intensive care on a ventilator. The intensive care team wants to do a tracheostomy and I want to have him extubated. What do I do? Part 4. You can check out the answer to last week's question by clicking on the link below this video. In this week's episode of Your Questions Answered, I want to answer the next question from Heather as part of her consulting sessions with me. Previous questions, part 1, part 2, part 3 and part 4 from Heather, you can find answered by clicking on the links in the written version of this blog below the video. Today, Heather asks, my partner is in intensive care on a ventilator. The intensive care team wants to do a tracheostomy and I want to have him extubated. What do I do? Part 5. Heather writes, Hi Patrick, thank you so much. When I went in and seen him today, after I talked to the doctor about him being too weak to ever get out of bed and to cough up secretions, which he was coughing up and spitting them out, which was a bit gross because it landed on his chin or his gown, but he was doing it anyway. My partner's cough and talk was weak on Sunday, but after a shot of morphine, he was talking and coughing and scratching his head. They say he's too weak to ever get out of bed. Then why is he still restrained? If he's so weak, why did they even extubate him today? What about him being delirious? My grandmother can't take pain medications at all, and she's delirious the whole time. I think people underestimate what anxiety and stress can do to a person, and I don't know why they won't give him Valium, but they keep ignoring me. You should also, Heather, check out a related article and video that I made about delirium. The 5 things you need to know if your loved one is confused, agitated and delirious in intensive care. You can check out the video and the article if you're clicking on the link below this video. So, continuing. The physiotherapist called my partner's parents today to explain that the reason that they couldn't do physical therapy is because of something to do with his neurological condition. I asked them if he has neurological damage or anything like that, and they said that they don't know yet. They called in a neurologist to see him before he was extubated, as well as a psychiatrist. They said they couldn't do anything while he was that sedated. Then afterwards, when he was extubated, I wanted them to have a neurologist look at him, and they didn't. Are there good neurological reasons why they wouldn't do physiotherapy? Especially since they don't even know if my partner has neurological issues. Many thanks, Heather. So, here's my response. Hi Heather, I hope you're doing well. Thank you for your question. I don't know what they are referring when mentioning your partner's neurological condition. From what you have described in previous emails and when we were talking on Skype, he has had some weak muscles, as well as some odd movements where you couldn't quite point your finger towards it. In any case, Heather, a prolonged period, and by now it's more than 4 weeks, in intensive care, with sedation, ventilation, induced coma, plus the surgery you've mentioned, would alter anybody's neurological condition. One of the ways to tackle an altered neurological condition is to get back to normality as quickly as possible. This includes physiotherapy. Even if physiotherapy is only done in the bed through moving limbs, etc., as well as doing some physiotherapy for the lungs, there needs to be some physiotherapy. Full stop. Everything else is BS, and it looks to me like they are making excuses. The only reason why someone couldn't be having any physiotherapy for an altered neurological condition would be seizures or severe head or brain injuries, and you haven't mentioned anything about your partner having seizures or a head or brain injury. Physiotherapy should be part of any intensive care therapy, full stop. If they have concerns about your partner's neurological condition, they should, as a starting point, do a CT or an MRI of his brain and assess everything from there. If they are finding anything unusual in the CT or the MRI, they can then get the neurologist involved. This is all I can see from what you are describing for now. The bottom line is, Heather, not doing physiotherapy on a long-term intensive care patient is cruel and generally speaking delays movement, recovery, etc. Especially since your partner is blind, physiotherapy and stimulation is even more important. I think they are making excuses and come up with some stories because they realize that you are doing your research and that you only accept the best. Keep doing that. You are on the right track. In the meantime, let me know what other questions you have, and we can go on Skype again or on the phone, or simply send me another email. Take care. So, how can you become the best advocate for your critically ill loved one, and how can you get peace of mind, control, power and influence quickly whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care? You get to that all-important feeling of peace of mind, control, power and influence when you download your free Instant Impact Report now by entering your email below. In your free Instant Impact Report, you learn quickly how to get peace of mind, real power and real control, and how you can influence decision making fast whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care. Your free Instant Impact Report gives you in-depth insight that you must know whilst your loved one is critically ill or is even dying in intensive care. Sign up and download your free Instant Impact Report now by entering your email below. In your free Instant Impact Report, you learn how to speak the secret intensive care language so that the doctors and the nurses know straight away that you are an insider and that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care. In your free report, you will also discover how to ask the doctors and the nurses the right questions. Discover the many competing interests in intensive care and how your critically ill loved one's treatment may depend on those competing interests. How to eliminate fear, frustration, stress, struggle and vulnerability even if your loved one is dying. You get 5 mind-blowing tips and strategies helping you to get on the right path to peace of mind, control, power and influence in your situation. You'll get many real-world examples that you can easily adapt to your and your critically ill loved one's situation. How to stop being intimidated by the intensive care team and how you will be seen as equals. You'll get crucial behind-the-scenes insight so that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care and how you need to manage doctors and nurses in intensive care, and it's not what you think. Thank you for tuning into this week's blog, and I'll see you again in another update next week. Make sure you also check out our Your Questions Answered section where I answer your questions, or send me an email to support@intensivecarehotline.com with your questions. Or you can call us. Find our phone numbers on our Contacts tab. Also check out our product section, where you get more ebooks, videos and audio recordings, and where you can also get one-on-one consulting with me via Skype, over the phone or via email by clicking on the Products tab. This is Patrick Hutzel from IntensiveCareHotline.com, and I'll see you again next week in another update.